So, Steve Irwin's birthday was last Friday, February 22nd. He would have turned 57 this year. And in order to honor him, to celebrate the life of someone most people view pretty fondly, right? As someone who was like a champion of animals, of wildlife, of nature, Google decided to make him the subject of their Google Doodle for the day. And Peta responded on Twitter, because of course they did, and it was quite controversial, because of course it was. Steve Irwin was killed while harassing a ray. He dangled his baby while feeding a crocodile and wrestled wild animals who were minding their own business. Today's Google Doodle sends a dangerous, fawning message. Wild animals are entitled to be left alone in their natural habitats. Steve Irwin's actions were not on target with his supposed message of protecting wildlife. A real wildlife expert and someone who respects animals for the individuals they are leaves them to their own business in their natural homes. It is harassment to drag exotic animals, including babies taken from their mothers, around from TV talk shows to conferences and force them to perform as Steve Irwin did. Animals deserve to live as they want to, not as humans demand. The Google Doodle should represent that. So this isn't actually anything new for Peta. When Steve Irwin died back in 2006, they actually said that, he made a career out of antagonizing animals, that this was a bad message to send to children, calling him basically a cheap reality TV star. So essentially the same sort of thing that they're saying now in their tweet. So on a very personal level, I agree somewhat. I grew up watching a lot of wildlife shows. I had the Jack Hanna tapes. I remember there was a little baby animals tape that I loved. I would watch over and over again. And I loved Animal Planet growing up, that sort of stuff. And Steve Irwin just was obnoxious to me. I didn't like that he was, jumping on crocodiles and whatnot and just manhandling them, and the yelling. He was always speaking so loudly, in some cases actually yelling, and it just wasn't something I was interested in. Again, I grew up on Jack Hanna, so the whole Irwin thing just felt kind of wrong to me. But this is a lot different from saying that what he did sent a bad message to children, which is what Peta is saying, what Peta has been saying for over a decade now. Proof? Is there any proof of, for instance, kids growing up watching Irwin being more likely to wrestle crocodiles or something? Maybe instead the sort of reality nature, of the program of Irwin's show, got more kids interested in the show, right? Because I don't think most kids were like me. They probably wouldn't have been too interested in watching a calm little oh, here's a little sloth. Aren't they cool? I think Irwin was more enticing to a lot of people and more exciting of a show probably for a lot of kids. So it's possible that maybe his show got more kids watching and maybe even encouraged them to seek employment in some sort of conservation realm, the vast majority of which don't involve wrestling alligators or being in front of the camera even. Wildlife conservationist Annika Svenska, says that what he did, quote, has inspired the next generation of conservationists. Probably now it wouldn't be looked at as so good to touch the animals like he used to, but at the time he was doing it, it inspired loads and loads of children to go on and work with animals. I'm not saying that she's right. We don't have evidence for either side, either viewpoint regarding Irwin and his impact. But clearly there hasn't been a cascade of Irwin knockoffs on TV since his death. And even if there were, even if the kind of conservationist programming on TV were dominated by these sort of Irwin types, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, what if for every one animal that was annoyed by Irwin or some Irwin wannabe, 9 other animals were saved via increased awareness brought to the masses by the program, by people watching this program and donating money or supporting certain conservation policies, whatever. If this were true, would Peta still be arguing that, being obnoxious around some crocodiles and snakes was inherently bad? I mean, probably, because it's Peta. Obviously, I'm not saying that this is true. It's just speculation on my part. Again, we don't have any evidence in terms of Steve Irwin's impact, other than just anecdotes from people saying like, yeah, I watched a show and it inspired me to go into conservation or to donate money to certain, efforts, certain charities, whatever. There is this 2010 survey conducted after his death that found those more highly involved with Irwin were more likely to increase their support of wildlife conservation. That doesn't really say anything about Steve inspiring loads and loads of children to go on to work with animals, as Svenska and others have claimed, but I don't think PETA would consider increased support of wildlife conservation to be a negative outcome. Both of these claims, that Steve Irwin was bad and he sent a bad message to kids, and that Steve Irwin was good and he inspired a new generation of conservationists, are empirical claims. They can be backed up by evidence, and they should be backed up by evidence that we don't have. So it's a good idea to not really pick a side, to just remain agnostic. However, if you're going to pick a side, it's probably a good idea not to be an asshole and disgrace the name of someone beloved and respected by the vast majority of people. Being wrong but being nice about it, I think, is a whole lot better than being wrong and being an asshole about it. But ultimately, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters what type of impact Irwin had, at least in terms of PETA and what PETA is trying to do, right? PETA is not just some random person on Twitter. Obviously, they are an organization with a certain goal in mind. I think what does matter in this case is that, again, most people have a positive view of Steve Irwin and his impact. Far more people support Svenska's view that he was a force for good and that he helped educate people and inspire people to take wild animals seriously and to view conservation as a worthwhile effort than support PETA's view that no, he actually harmed animals and was a bad role model. If PETA's organization was focused on wildlife conservation or something like that, then the tweet would make more sense. It would still be a horrible take, but at least it would make sense for them to comment on something like that, right? Because that would be the focus of the organization. But clearly that is not the focus of PETA. Their focus overwhelmingly is on farmed animals, not on wildlife, and on getting people to go vegan by not eating or wearing or exploiting farmed animals. How does disparaging the name of someone people love, someone who is viewed as a champion of animals, over a decade after his untimely death, how does this contribute positively to their goal? Saying definitively that Steve Irwin was bad, actually, is just guaranteed to gain negative attention, which seems to always be what they're going for, so good job, I guess. So yeah, it's more PETA nonsense. All I can say is there are so many animal charities that do good work without this kind of stuff, without resorting to shock factor bullshit, without promoting pseudoscience like that dairy consumption is linked to autism, without killing a bunch of cats and dogs that could have been adopted out. I don't think I made... Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't make a video last year talking about who we donated to. I usually do that every year because we like to donate at the end of the year when they do all the donation matching and stuff like that. Although I know a lot of people prefer doing a monthly thing so that they have it set up and they have it planned because it can be kind of rough, if you forget and then it's the end of the year and it's oh my God, not only is it Christmas and spending a lot of money, but I also have to give my yearly amount. It can be a little bit anxiety inducing. I understand that, but that's how we like to do it. And we did go with Good Food Institute again for the second year in a row. There are other great organizations too. We used to give to Mercy for Animals. I think I did that for a few years. I don't know. I don't feel super comfortable because I think they promote a lot of stupid health shit that I've commented on, at least on their Twitter. The whole, oh, you think that meat has so much protein. Look how much protein's in broccoli. God, kill me. And woo, look at all these sexy, vegetarian and vegan celebrities. They found the fountain of youth because they're vegan. What? No. But honestly, the main reason is that I think that the biggest thing right now is getting more and more plant-based products on the market and increasing demand and bringing prices down, and also in vitro meat. And these are the issues that Good Food Institute is focused on. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe. That's cool. Support the channel. Patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. And I will have a new video very very soon. I'm about to record another one. This one will have been up. The one that you're currently watching has already been on Patreon. And then probably the one I'm about to record will be on Patreon while you are watching this video. Unless you're watching it sometime in the future. Oh God, I'm just gonna stop. And yes, I'm still pregnant. I'm so close. We're so close to the finish line. Oh man, it's been rough. You know, I feel like it's kind of flipped from the first one. My first pregnancy, the first trimester was awful. And then it got a little bit better. You know, sometime into the second trimester, I was able to eat more, all that kind of stuff. I still was tired the whole time, but it was a little bit better. This time, you know, my first trimester was so much better. I didn't have the super food aversion like I did the first time. But man, my third trimester has been a whole lot of bullshit. Just the practice contractions that aren't supposed to hurt, that, spoiler, if you are like second, third, fourth, fifth time mom, they can be quite painful and they can come with cramping, which is not supposed to happen. And, you know, all this other super, super fun stuff. And I just feel like there's no room at all for baby, and it really hurts. And I don't remember that the first time. I don't remember it hurting as much. It feels like there's just no room at all, and everything's pressing up. And then it also, you know, my boobs are ginormous, if you haven't noticed. And so when baby's like, you know, butt or whatever is like up here pressing, and feet and stuff, and then my breasts are like weighing down on it as well. It's just like so much pressure, and it's awful. I need just someone to stand behind me and just constantly like hold my boobs up. That would be amazing. And then the pelvic pressure has been, oh my God, almost constant for weeks now. Again, don't remember that at all. So that's been really fun. But whatever, getting close and hanging in there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye. I will say that I think there's an interesting discussion to be had about conservation in general. You know, the utility of it and what does or doesn't make it like a worthwhile moral pursuit. Obviously, you know, Peta is not the organization to have that discussion, and that's not at all what they were talking about with their tweet, right? I mean, they were criticizing a specific individual and their interaction with animals. And even if they did start talking about, you know, conservation, that would be weird, because it's not really, again, it has nothing to do with their like stated goals, and nothing really to do with veganism. But yeah, I think there's an interesting discussion to be had. I'm not the one to do it. But, and I try to stay away from those sorts of topics, anything to do with wildlife and nature, and, well, like my cat's video, you know, people get very upset. So, and I understand. So I try to stay away from that, because again, it is just not super related to veganism, not super related to the biggest problems I think that we're dealing with right now, which is just getting people to eat less animal products, right? But if any of you know some resources on that, maybe some interesting kind of discussion or debate talking about conservation and whatnot, that would be interesting. So let me know.